Your brand voice should reflect your personality, your value, your overall brand vibe. So the power of a brand voice should not only communicate what your business does, but also connect emotionally with your audience.
Welcome back to Duo On Air. I'm Abby.
And I'm Courtney.
And we're the ex-agency turned entrepreneurial team that puts the Duo in Duo Collective. Our boutique organic marketing agency specializes in SEO, social media strategy, and branding.
We're an everyday pair of business besties / marketing experts obsessed with helping our community learn more about what it takes to run a business.
Which is why on Duo On Air, we're not holding anything back. We're giving you all the info we know about how to grow your business organically so you can be the confident CEO you were made to be.
And how to navigate life as a small business owner.
Whether it's on your own or with your best friend by your side, so grab your coffee
or your mimosa, we don't judge,
and settle in for a quick value-packed episode of Marketing Tips.
Welcome back to the Duo On Air podcast. This is episode number 139, and today we are going to be talking about simple steps to building your brand's voice. So there are so many different layers to your brand than outside of just your visuals, which we've talked about this time and time again. And one of those is your brand voice. And these are things that we really dive into when somebody works with us on their brand strategy. Are these different pieces of your brand that come to life outside of the visual. So brand voice, tone, personality, mission, vision. So today we're just going to be focusing on that brand voice, but do know that there are a ton of other things that make up your brand outside of just this voice here. So there's again, like I said, mission, vision, all those other things. But what is a brand voice? You might be curious about what it is, or some people might have different thoughts. But this is how we describe it to our clients and define it in the style guides that we pull together and create for our clients. This describes how you talk with your audience across all channels of communication. Your brand voice makes you sound like you, regardless of where you are. Social, Instagram, website, email, in person, even. Everywhere you are, this is the same voice that you use for your brand. And it should be an extension of your personality and values. It should not be something that's foreign. It should not feel like you, not sound like you. Your brand's voice is actually an extension of you, your personality, and the values that you put into your business and your brand. So simply put, it means that if someone reads your Instagram caption and then goes to your website and then listens to your podcast and then reads your email, it should all sound the same. You should not be all over the place. You should not have a certain tone in one of them and go to a completely different tone in the other one. You should not sound different if you are at a networking event and you meet someone. It should all come off the same. It's kind of like when we talk about the brand consistency for visuals, you want everything to look the same. Same goes for your brand voice. You want everything to sound the same. So, it's just deeper than a voice. Your brand voice should reflect your personality, your value, your overall brand vibe. So the power of a brand voice should not only communicate what your business does, but also connect emotionally with your audience, turning potential customers into loyal advocates and people that want to follow you, people that want to be a part of your tribe. So Abby and I get this a lot. We are fun and outgoing, even though at home, we're actually pretty boring, but which we're not putting on a facade. We are fun and outgoing, but I think a lot of people are just like, oh my gosh, you guys are like the coolest. And we're like, I don't know, are we the coolest? But we have a fun, upbeat, bright approach to our brand. And those words come through in our brand voice. And when people meet us, when clients work with us, they're always like, gosh, you girls are so fun. I just want to go grab a coffee or a HH with you. And I don't know why I just said
HH.
What is
I was like, is this a new thing? Maybe I'm not in the know.
I feel like I'm trying to be like young and hip.
HH. Is that a thing? Someone please comment and let us know if that's what people are calling happy hours nowadays. Or did we just start a new trend?
HH.
That's a social post, please.
Too funny.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest compliment you can get, knowing that your brand voice, like if you've ever heard someone say, you are exactly how I pictured you, or you're exactly like what I thought you would be.
Mm-hmm.
If you get that compliment, that means that you are pushing out a brand voice that is truly reflective of you, and you are doing a good job of it, because that means that your communication is clear across everything. People can make that connection in person to your content that you're creating online. So that is like the biggest compliment you can get. If you haven't heard it, it doesn't mean you're not doing it well. It just means that maybe you don't go out of your home as much. Like that could be me.
And your brand voice could be totally different too, where it's like that's not the person or the vibe you're trying to attract. So it really does depend on your brand voice and how people are going to react to it. And brand voices are going to be drastically different. Some brand voices need to be serious and to the point, but also maybe like soft and gentle, depending on what it is that their service is or their product is. Some businesses need to be loud and proud and out there and maybe a little aggressive. Abby and I, we want our brand to just be us, essentially, which again goes back to that personality. We don't want to be fake. We don't want it to be hard. We want our brand voice to come easy. And the easiest way that our brand voice is going to come to us is by us just truly being our authentic selves. And that's what we do. And that's how we show up. And I think the people that we attract are also looking for that and appreciate that. And that's why they feel like they can open up to us, or they can have a candid conversation with us, or they can be vulnerable with us, because we do all of those things within our brand. And that's how we approach our brand voice. So
I think you should tell the story about how you chose your acupuncturist.
Oh,
because I think that brand voice, that is actually the perfect example of brand voice needing to match. One of the first tips we have for you is your audience. So we're going to go through all of these ways on how to define your brand voice, but I think this is a really good lead-in. So you should maybe tell that story.
Okay, yeah, that's a really great story. We actually just talked about this.
I know,
like a week ago.
Made me
for
think
some
of it.
reason. But when I was choosing an acupuncturist, if you followed along, our fertility journey was a little bit of a rough start. We had 2 losses, and prior to being pregnant with Mila and having her, and that was a really hard time for me. It was a dark time. I was trying to figure out how to navigate that kind of loss. I wasn't feeling, great about everything that was going on. I was really out of my element. And so I was looking into other things that I could do to help my fertility journey. And one of those things was acupuncture. So I was looking for a fertility acupuncturist, especially, and here in town, and I got 2 referrals. And when you are looking for something like this, referrals are going to be something that you really lean heavily into versus just like a Google search. So I looked into both of those referrals, and I reached out to both of them, and I just inquired on their website. I sent them a really detailed message about our journey, what I was looking for, where I was at emotionally and mentally. And I heard back from both of them within a matter of a few days. And the one lady replied, and she was very bubbly and very like, yes, Courtney, oh my gosh, I'd love to meet you. It would be so great to have you come into the office. And I really think we could be a great fit. And she was just overly bubbly and didn't meet me where I needed to be met. She didn't speak the way that I was feeling necessarily. She was too friendly, which sounds weird to say she was too friendly, but she was just overly friendly. And I just got this weird vibe because I'm like, this is not how I described my situation. I wasn't bubbly in the inquiry form that I filled out. And 2, she just didn't meet me emotionally where I needed to be met. The lady that I ended up going through and with, Megan from Mother Moon Acupuncture, she actually called me. So she didn't email me back. She called me, and we had an actual conversation on the phone. And she was very soft and very gentle and very deliberate with her words. She knew the things to like touch on, but not what, like certain things not to focus on. And she met me where I needed to be met emotionally, and her voice and her tone and how she related to me, because she also went through something very similar, was my immediate choice. My choice was made there and then because she met me where I needed to be met. So again, that is a huge testament to
Mhm.
your brand voice and how you're interacting with potential clients and the reason that they're coming to you and why they're coming to you. So that's
And
a really
neither is wrong
no,
either.
no.
So I think this is where it truly comes down to understanding your audience and who you want to attract, because you might not have been right for that other person.
Exactly.
She might have needed and wants to connect with other individuals. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's
Mm-mm.
nothing wrong with being bubbly and making sure you're attracting those clients that you genuinely want to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that either of those are wrong, but it's just it's a really good real life example of you hiring someone based on their brand voice
Mm-hmm.
and it resonating with you and making that brand feel right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we've had a lot of inquiries too, where they're just like, I just love you ladies. You're so fun. And I just want to work with you. And again, that's a testament to our brand voice and how we're
Mhm.
showing up and the people that we want to attract and work with.
Yeah. So let's dive into this. If you don't have a clearly defined brand voice, if you don't have a style guide, if you don't have it written, if you don't have these adjectives that you use to describe your brand's voice, then let's do it together. So we have a worksheet for you. So you can actually, if you're listening to this in the car, you can go grab the show notes later and download it. But we have a whole worksheet for you that's going to guide you through what we're going to walk you through right now so that you can identify your brand voice. And in this worksheet, we're also going to include a bunch of different adjectives and voice basically pillars that you can steal. You can look at all of them, see which ones describe you, highlight, circle them, feel which ones are going to work for you. So it'll kind of give you a little head start on the whole process.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we're very
So
excited.
make sure to go to the show notes and download that worksheet.
So the first one, who is your audience? Again, we kind of just briefly touched on an example of this, but your brand voice should speak directly to the people that you want to reach. So making sure that your brand voice really resonates with the people that you want to work with. You want them to have a similar approach, a similar voice, a similar reaction to your brand based on your voice. Understanding who they are, what they care about, and how they communicate will help you tailor your brand voice to resonate with them. Again, going back to that example, Megan read my inquiry. She knew how I felt. She knew where I was, and she could meet me there through just talking to me, and her brand voice really sold me on wanting to work with her. So really thinking about who they are, who do they or how do they talk? How do they like to be spoken to? Again, that example. How do they interact with their family and friends? Are they introverts or extroverts? You're going to probably really want to answer that question, actually, because Abby and I are a little bit more extroverted, I would say, and we tend to attract more extroverted business people. And that's fine. We've worked with introverts. It's not that we can't work with a broad selection, but really knowing, are they a little softer and a little bit more kept to themselves, or are they a little bit more out there and outgoing? That can really help define that brand voice too. Do they like to be called out, or do they take offense by it? So really, are you bold? Are you going to say things like that could ruffle feathers, or calling them out on stuff? Or is that really going to turn them off? Because those are big things to think about too on how you're speaking to your audience, is making sure that if you're going to be controversial, how do you deal with that? Or be sure that if you're going to be controversial or call somebody out or make a stance on something, you are going to attract a very specific audience, because some people get really uncomfortable with that. But some people love it and find it like a challenge and want to converse with you and go back and forth on that too.
Yeah, nothing's wrong.
Nothing is wrong.
No.
You just have to know exactly, if you're putting it out there, what can you expect back, and making sure too that you feel comfortable within your brand voice, that you're still being authentic and your real self, and that this is how you want to show up and speak from a brand perspective.
Yeah. This also helps really bring to life the difference between your strategy and your visuals.
Yes.
Anyone can be attracted to colors, to logos, to style of how you visually portray yourself. But how you talk is going to make such a difference in whether people ultimately make a decision to work with you or buy your products. versus not. Like
Mm-hmm.
that piece of it seals the deal. It's like the bow on the present, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then this last one, do they want a friend or an expert or both? I think that could be a really great question to ask yourself, because Abby and I, we kind of want to be both, right? We want to be the expert, but we also want to make a friend, because we have that bubbly nature. We have that conversational nature. Like, that is part of us. And we like to make all of the friends that we can. Like, if we could be friends with all of our clients, we absolutely would. And some don't want that and some do, but we definitely like a little bit of both. Like, we want to be the expert and to give you the results that you deserve and that you're paying for. But we wouldn't mind if you wanted to like be our friend and hang out on the internet together.
Right, for sure. So that's number one, really understanding who your audience is. So use this worksheet to kind of walk through that and lay that out. Number two is identifying what your brand values are. Your voice should reflect your values, and you need to know what your brand values are first before you can articulate your voice. So this is going to make sure that your communication is authentic and it's aligned, and your brand is standing for something that you truly believe in. So let me give you an example on how to bring this to life. So say that you're a wellness brand, and part of your brand values is that you want to encourage a balanced and healthy lifestyle. So your voice should likely be calm, holistic, nurturing. But then all of a sudden you go on social media and you post something like, don't miss out on the latest fitness craze. And it's something about like wall Pilates, because that's all I see on Instagram lately. Wall Pilates, like, don't miss out on the latest fitness craze. You got to get in this. This is going to like change your life, blah, blah, blah. So this kind of social media post, although that might be something that you want to share with your audience, just the verbiage of like, don't miss out, like the latest craze, it's not giving this very like balanced, nurturing vibe. It's going to make me think that you're into quick fixes. It's going to drive urgency. It might actually make me feel stressed out, like I'm behind, like I didn't already know about this. This is the latest trend. I need to jump on it, like hurry quick. So it might actually create more stress than like this calm, nurturing kind of vibe that she should be going for based on brand values. So this is a made up example. This isn't someone in real life, but just saying that this kind of defining, making sure that your voice really speaks to your values is going to be super important. And it's going to help you write create your content. Like, what types of content are you going to create? How are you going to communicate? How are you going to talk? And if you don't have those values defined, that's going to be really hard to craft it.
And the third thing, so this is something that I think a lot of people maybe don't do as an exercise when it comes to their brand voice, because a lot of the times when we're developing our brand voice and our brand, we know exactly what we want, right? We're like, we want to be this energetic, wild, outgoing brand, or like, nope, I am soft, I am calm, I am laid back. So you know all the things that you are or that you want to be when it comes to your brand and your brand voice. But you should also really think about what your voice shouldn't be. So not just doing an exercise of circling words or adjectives that describe who you are, but also doing the opposite exercise on what you don't want to be, what you don't want to sound like, because that is just as important as how you want to sound. So by defining what this is. So for example, here are some things that Duo is not. This is our brand and examples of what our brand voice isn't. We are not exclusive. We are not serious. If you know anything about us, we're very far from serious. We can be serious when we need
when
to
the
be.
time needs to
when
be.
the time is right. If there's something serious going on in the world, or serious going on with one of us, or serious in our business, we know how to be serious then. But outside of that, that is not a part of who we are. We are not serious every day. We are not bold, as in the sense of like, we don't come at you. We don't say a ton of controversial things.
We don't ruffle feathers.
We don't ruffle feathers. No, like that.
Sometimes I want to, like, no joke. I like want to be the person that's going to like ruffle a few feathers every now and again. But at the end of the day, I'm not that person.
No, it's not us. And it would feel so uncomfortable. And it would probably be something that we're like, oh, shoot, we should not have been bold there.
Yeah, right. I love watching it, though. I love watching other people ruffle feathers. And I love engaging and being like, ooh, yeah, spicy. Love it.
The Minnesota Nice definitely holds us back a little bit here. So we are not formal. We are very laid back. We like our leggings and our t-shirts and our oversized sweatshirts. And again, there's a time and a place where we might need to be a little bit more formal at an event or something. But again, you're never going to find Abby and I like buttoned up to a T, super formal all the time, because that's just not us. We're not authoritative. We're not luxury or high end. We're not nostalgic. So we don't focus on the past. We look forward. We're very bright and exciting and kind of all about looking forward in the new age and all of this stuff. So these are just examples of what we are not. And I think if you followed us and you listen to that list, you would definitely agree too. And, going through this, again, like I said, is just as important as the things that you are, because you want to make sure that these two things don't mix, right? And again, these things, like we said, we can be serious when we need to be serious. So it's not to say that you can't have some of these in your brand voice, but it is not the thing that is driving your brand and that brand voice. These things can be sprinkled in, sure, when they need to be, but really making sure that you focus on what your brand voice is and what your brand voice is not.
Yeah. So number 4, the last thing that we're going to have you do in this worksheet is to analyze your current content. So this could be right or could not be right based on whether you feel like you've been doing a good job at consistently showcasing your voice. So you're going to have to gut check this. But we love using ChatGPT to help you analyze current content. So I want you to take an email, take a social post, a caption, take a page from your website, and go plug it into ChatGPT and say, can you analyze this piece of content and use some unique adjectives that would help me define my brand voice based on what you're seeing here? So ChatGPT can spit out all of these different adjectives that will help define your brand voice and what they're seeing in content you've already created. So grab a piece of content that you feel like is an accurate picture of your brand voice and start with that first. Because again, if you haven't been very consistent with this, you don't want to grab a piece, like any piece of content, without making sure that it feels relevant. Mm-hmm. And then you can also share the 3 things we've already talked about. So after it spits out, then say, okay, here's my audience, here's my brand values, here's what my voice shouldn't be. Can you gut check that against these adjectives that you've just pulled out and make sure that nothing's missing or nothing needs to be updated? And that will kind of help you refine it so that you can really get down to the granular pieces. But at the end of the day, we always say ChatGPT is your intern, mm-hmm. So gut check it. It needs to feel right for you, and it needs to have longevity. You can't look at this and be like, oh, I could do that right now. But like, this isn't something like I would be putting on a facade. Like it wouldn't be me. It wouldn't feel like me. We're very big believers that your brand voice should be a part of your personal personality. It's going to be really hard to be someone you're not if you're trying to build a business that doesn't reflect you. So that's very important. And this is also something where if you run a business where you have employees or you hire staff, you have people that are a part of your team, they should also reflect your brand voice. You shouldn't hire someone who can't also be like, a reflection of this. They don't need to be the same as you. Like, we're not asking you to clone yourself, but wouldn't that be great? But they need to be able to match these adjectives. And if they can't, they might not be the right person for your business. This is especially true if you run a service-based business, or I guess, service is right. Service-based business where you hire employees that's like customer facing, like someone at a shop. If you're a store owner, that is going to be super important because those people need to reflect your brand's voice too. It can't just always be you.
Mm-hmm. So when you're in that interview process, asking them questions that would reflect your brand voice, and you can even kind of do it in a way that, you can't they can't like skirt around the question or like, kind of lie or whatever. So just asking them specific questions that you would get clarity on if they are somebody who is like relatable and upbeat and conversational and like maybe a little bit more extroverted. Because if you want somebody, in sales or in front of customers, you probably want them to be a tad bit more extroverted, or even somebody who can, again, meet somebody where they are, right? They can kind of shift in that conversation if they need to based on who they're talking to.
Situational questions are really good ways to pull out how they would respond to that situation. So just putting them in the shoes of like, say this happened at our store today. How would you react or what would you do? That can be a really good way to pull out whether or not they're going to match the voice. And just understanding what adjectives and what your brand voice is. Like sometimes you can just have a conversation with someone and know right away that they are going to reflect what your brand should reflect to.
Okay, so what is Duo's brand voice? So we're going to talk through some of these adjectives that are a part of our brand voice. So the first one is relatable. And we have talked about this earlier on this episode, is that a lot of people come to us and they can just relate to us. They say, oh my gosh, we love you guys. You're so fun and upbeat. And we love all of the like education you give us. And you're just so conversational and authentic.
Approachable. Like all of those are just kind of things that we're not afraid. We're a small business owner just like you. Like we're not afraid to share the good and the bad. And I think that's what makes us relatable, is that we don't hold back. We don't gatekeep. We're not going to just talk about the rainbows and unicorns of our business. We're going to show you the poop emojis of our business. Like
we're not going to be like on Instagram showing that everything is perfect and beautiful, because it's not. So again, that's where like some of that authenticity comes through. We are our authentic selves. We are never, lying or saying you or showing you something and making it look like all rainbows and unicorns when it's a dumpster fire. We're going to let you know when it's a dumpster fire versus not. And I think a lot of people appreciate that honesty as well, because again, like it goes back to being relatable, because they see that we are going through a struggle and they are maybe also going through a struggle. So they're like, wow, I really appreciate that you guys are so honest and upfront and open about this, because it makes me feel less alone.
Yeah.
And we're not afraid to be vulnerable when it comes to things like that.
And there's certain fields and industries where this might not be something you want to be. So like, for example, I don't want to know the mistakes anyone's made in a medical field.
Nope.
I don't want to know that.
No.
Like, no, do not share that.
Probably shouldn't share that.
Like, there's definitely situations where you wouldn't do what we do. So again, and just because you are in a service-based business also doesn't mean that you have to act that way. Like it all depends on your audience and who you want to attract. So,
and these are definitely the people that we want to attract and work with.
Yeah.
And it's been very successful for us. We've attracted the right people. But just as much as we are like relatable and vulnerable, we are also motivational. So we also, when we have something that happens in our business, like a dumpster fire, we don't just quit. We figure out what we need to do to fix it, to get beyond it, and how to move forward and make a learning out of it. And that's what we also teach you guys. We come on here, we tell you the struggle we had, but we tell you how we got through it too. And at the time, at the struggle, we might be crying. And then a few months later, we're probably laughing about it. And then next year down the road, we're like, wow, aren't we glad that we went through that thing and learned that thing? So we try to make things motivational too, not just like everything's a dumpster fire. We can fix that dumpster fire. We can put it out and we can find a solution. Yeah. So we try to bring that motivation and energy forward versus just being like,
this sucks. Yeah. I think that's something we're going to be relatable with you. We're going to share when business is slow or when stuff's not going our way or when we need to pivot. But we are very conscious not to share in the wound. Like, what is it called? Like, we share from a scar, not from a wound. And we're very we want to be relatable and we want to share, but we are not going to come at you when we are struggling so hard that we don't have an answer, because that's not us. That's not our brand's voice. We're going to come at you sharing that, like, oh, things are crappy right now, and even if we don't have the answer, we do have tips, we do have ways to move forward, and we're going to bring that motivation and that inspiration for you. We're not going to share something and just be like Debbie Downers and just to be relatable, right? So like that's where the two kind of balance each other out.
Right. A few other words that we like to really lean on are playful, inspirational, nurturing. We really love to nurture. Like, we are nurturers at heart. We love to nurture our audience, our clients. We always like to make sure that we're showing up as caring and supportive, but also giving you the guidance and advice that you're looking for. Which is why we also do surveys throughout the year to make sure that we're staying up to date on that, because a big part of our business and what we want to do is we really want to nurture you and make sure you're getting what you have come to us out of us. We don't want you to come here and then if like something just like fizzles out and you're like, oh, well, I'm done with them. We want to keep you here. We want to be your friend, like we said earlier, but we also want to make sure that we're giving you what you came to get. We don't want you to leave empty-handed.
Yeah.
So those are just a handful of things that define Duo's brand voice, which we went through a lot of things. So your brand voice can be a lot of things, but it doesn't have to be a lot of things either. It could be 3 things. It could be 15 things, right? But it's a matter of figuring out how to pull it all together and how to use that brand voice strategically and consistently and through all of your touch points, and making sure that it shows up through all of your touch points, that nobody is getting confusion when they go from one spot to another within your brand. If somebody lands on my Instagram and then they go to our website, they better have that same feeling from one to the next, because if you have some sort of a loss of communication or brand voice from one to the next, you're going to lose someone, because now they're confused on who you truly are and what your brand voice is and how they should be listening to you and engaging with you if you have inconsistent brand voice messaging.
Yeah. And a good example is that acupuncturist, because her website obviously spoke to you, you inquired, and then from leaving the website to meeting her in person, like, I actually think a good advice from a brand voice perspective for her would be to make her website more bubbly, to make it more fun and playful and bubbly, and attract that audience so that she like matches that as a person. And that can be really helpful. So I think this worksheet, we hope, is going to help you kind of guide you through the process, give you some examples, make it easier to find and connect with what your brand voice should be. And then once you've got it done, you need to, one, like, gut check everything you do against your brand voice. Every social caption you write, every email you write, anytime you're working on your website copy, like, you need to gut check that. And then you can take those adjectives, you can post them next to your desk, you can make sure that you're following through with it, and you can even use these to infuse them into your ChatGPT prompts as you create content. Make sure that this communicates these adjectives, like it's acting like this. So super important, so that you can live and breathe your brand voice. So go grab the worksheet. It's in the show notes, and we cannot wait to watch your brand voice come to life.
Yay!
If you like this episode, please be sure to share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes dropping every Monday. Plus, if you haven't already, please go ahead and leave us a review, and don't hesitate to share any new episode ideas. We absolutely love hearing from you and creating this content for you. See you next week.